So in my early videos, I did a segment. I would go through all the news of the day, and then I shifted to just trying to focus on one major concept in each video. But when I did all the news of the day, I did a segment called Fun with Russian State Media, where I would just point out, like, look, you just saw all the news. Now here's how Russia frames it, and here are their talking points. So we're going to kind of play a game today. I'm going to look at an RT video. This is the aim of the West initially was to hurt Russia, says Surovov Institute head to RT. And we're going to watch this video, and you're going to hear a little chime every time there was a Russian talking point. Now I want you to try to hit it before then. Just slap the desk, point at the screen, do something. Just got it. There's another one. Whatever it is, you get it before I get the chime in, and let's see how we play. Okay, here we go.
Instead of using his pulpit to call for peace, Pope Francis has criticized countries for reducing military aid to Kiev, stating that that could directly contribute to Ukrainian debt.
We should not play games with the martyrdom of these people. We have to help them resolve things. I see now that some countries are moving backwards, not wanting to give arms. A process is starting in which the martyr certainly will be the Ukrainian people, and that is an ugly thing.
Well, to give you a sense of the aid provided by Western countries to Ukraine already, here's some data from the German Kiel Institute. EU institutions top the list, pledging over 89 billion euro since the conflict began. The United States follows that, sending the equivalent of nearly 70 billion euro to Kiev. And Germany, which has signed off taxpayer checks to the tune of some 20 billion euro, rounds off the top three donor list. Well, let's cross live now to the head of the Vienna-based think tank, the Suvorov Institute, Alexander Markovits. Alexander, you're most welcome. Yeah, Pope.
Okay, here come the questions or the statements or whatever. Just be prepared. It's going to come fast and furious.
Francis, there are claims that Western nations are, quote, playing games regarding continued Ukrainian military aid. What was your initial reaction when you heard that assessment?
Well, I think this time the Pope definitely spoke the truth, since now Poland is about to stop its weapon deliveries to Ukraine, and also other European countries are now thinking about slowly but surely ending their support for the Kiev regime. And I guess he's definitely correct when he says that the Ukrainian people becomes a martyr in these bargains of the West.
See that?
Because the very aim of the West from the beginning of this conflict was not to really help Kiev or help preserving its statehood or whatever they promised to them, but it was actually to hurt Russia. And
see that? Are you seeing this? Like one after another, like he couldn't, like it's almost every sentence he's getting these Russian talking points in.
For Ukrainians are now paying a heavy price for fighting in this war, since of course they can't outproduce Russia and all the weapons in the West.
It's a shame that the Ukrainians started this whole thing, right? I mean, they didn't have to. Their puppet masters in the West are doing it. I mean, it's almost like that's the kind of thing that he's saying without saying. The Ukrainians are paying the price because it's the West that really wants this war with Russia. After all, it's a proxy war. Okay, let's keep going. You're hearing it though, right? I mean, you're seeing each talking point.
Would not be able to help them winning this war. So now they are actually going to the crucifixion for Western values, simply because the West needed another vessel in order to fight Russia and cause damage to it.
It was an incredibly political statement from the Pope. Now, like the Pontiff has historically been, or at least tried to be, I suppose, a beacon of peace and piety, advocating.
Yeah, you know, the commentator on the left is actually right. That was pretty militant for a Pope to be saying something like that. That's normally not what the Pope would be saying.
Now, though, for what, let's call it as it is, something that will lead to more debts.
There you go, another talking point.
Yeah, exactly. So the war, as said before, for Ukraine is simply a lose-lose situation. And definitely he made some kind of political intervention, because it is not the first time that he's actually telling the West that they should stop the war in Ukraine, but he did it several times before. And his appeal now at this moment, I think it's not a coincidence, since the Ukrainian losses are skyrocketing
There you go,
because Kiev
counteroffensive
simply
loss.
lacks the artillery and the weapons in order to counter Russia. And yeah, therefore it would be just logical for them to end the war. But the problem is that the West is Kiev not allowing to make peace, as it was last year in March and April, when the West, in the form of Great Britain, for example, sabotaged the peace talks between Russia and Ukraine in Turkey. So, of course, it's good that he's intervening and making these political statements, because maybe he can talk some sense into the Western political leaders at the moment. Because, of course, for Ukraine, and not only for Russia, but at the moment, mostly for Ukraine, this is an enormous suffering, and especially a suffering which has no sense at all. And therefore, it would be only wise to end that and finally make peace.
If we just take one country
peace.
as an example, as Alexander, while US politicians dispute the continuous supply of arms to Kiev, particularly in the Republican Party, Washington has maintained its commitment to delivering Abrams tanks to the country. Is something like that, is that part of the quote game mentioned by the Pope? You think that's what he's alluding to?
Yes, definitely. Because, of course, Washington is not giving all these tanks and weapons away for free, but they let Ukraine actually pay them, either in resources or in other assets. And therefore, yeah, it's just a game, at least because all the Abrams tanks in the world won't make Ukraine win this war, because they can't they can't train their soldiers in time on these tanks, and also they don't have sufficient numbers so that they would make a difference. Therefore, it's not important if it's a Leopard tank, an Abrams tank, or a Challenger. All these tanks also will burn in the Russian minefields in Ukraine, and they will also be hunted down by Russian Kinjals and other UAVs or anti-tank weapons. And therefore, it's insofar just a game, as these Western weapon deliveries can only protract the suffering of Ukraine, but they can't end the conflict. And therefore, it's basically senseless to send them these weapons.
Live from Vienna, Alexander Markovits.
That was an amazing amount of Russian talking points. Like, I watched this video just to see what they had to say, and then when I was done with it, I was like, holy cow, like with every breath, this guy got a Russian talking point in. Okay, I hope you understand what they're doing. There's the war, and then there's the economic war and the political war, and then there's the informational war, and this is the informational war. And it looks like he's just a, academic observer, whatever. No, he is just machine gunning these Russian talking points, and that's why I wanted you to watch this particular video. Okay, thank you for your time, and tell me what you thought about this. Is this worth doing again? Was this helpful? Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, the coffees, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.